Hello, testing, mic check. Looks good. Hello, people viewing. I'm going to switch over my camera shortly. Hey Rebel, how are you doing? Okay, that looks good. So this is a new laptop I'm on. Last time there were some big technical difficulties because the laptop I was using had half the screen like out, and so there was a makeshift solution involving a giant monitor and me looking up at this monitor, but now it appears we're good. And yes, I'm doing quite well. Did not do anything kit related this weekend, so no progress on that end, but it was a fun weekend and I'm feeling refreshed and productive since I got a lot of stuff done, and so I'm happy. Yeah, this week looks like it's gonna be good in terms of like me getting stuff done and just, you know, working on kits and gearing up for my university to start in, you know, a month and a half, so that's crazy. But let's see what we're gonna do today. I kind of just like copied everything over, so but making sure my stream layout is good and everything, because it was all on the other laptop. But it seems like we're okay, and yeah, we're good here. So I guess we're pretty much ready to start. We might as well, because we got a lot of work ahead of us still. For what we did last time, it was kind of just a combination of pinning and puttying and random stuff as we're trying to get this kit closer and closer to the primer stage. There's still a lot of work that needs to be happening on this kit. This is an interesting angle for my camera, is also not working quite well, so I'll try to angle things and show you guys, but in any case, we're gonna start out today with getting some of this red putty sanded down. Actually, what I'm looking at is it looks super clear on my camera, like everything is focused, and that's, maybe it's my new monitor. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Anyway, we're gonna start out, we're gonna be sanding all of this red stuff down. We've got a lot of you know, random junk that needs to be putty, Bondo that needs to be sanded down off of this, and so we'll start with that and then see how it goes. We will need to do some more pinning on this kit. Right now, this is kind of all we got right now is her boots and her bottom half of her, and some of that doesn't fit super well. You can see there's like a gap in her crotch here, and normally that shouldn't really happen. It should be something like this. And so what I might do, rather than like mess around with the pin, since these are really stuck in here, is just extend the area out with some 2-part epoxy. I think that's what I'm planning on doing. So basically just add some epoxy on this side probably, or maybe this side, doesn't really matter. And then that way we can extend that area out with some putty and sand it down, and it will be, you know, still kind of, it'll fill in the gap basically. So we're gonna do some gap filling, which is something we didn't do with the mate, so that should be fun. So let me make sure that, yep, that's good. Hi T-Rex. We are gonna be sanding today and puttying and maybe pinning. I've got some wires over here so we can possibly do her hair and pin her hair. I also need to cut some more cardboard to get like the glue on, and so there's lots of random stuff. So let's just get going then. We're gonna start puttying and sanding down said putty, etc. I think all these pieces in here needed it as well, so might as well get this out of the way before we continue pinning, since we did kind of not do any of that last time we were streaming. And let me grab my 400 after this. Actually, this comes off pretty easy with the 800. Okay. So I recall when I added all the putty on around the edge of her skirt slash, you know, tattered clothes here, I wasn't sure if there were going to be any micro holes that filled in with this putty, so we'll just have to see. It actually does look like there are a couple holes, so This part might be a little tedious too. We got a lot of area to cover all around here, so bear with me. But yeah, I hope you guys all had a good weekend and that you're staying cool wherever you are, because holy goodness, it was so hot this past weekend. And then it just went and it rained like all day today. Well, a good portion of this afternoon came through pretty harsh, so. So luckily this red stuff's gonna come off really easy. I also do have some lacquer thinner in a cup over here, which I'll just kind of leave off to the side. And I'm just gonna wipe over areas real quick with it to pick up some of this red stuff. You know, the red putty that's mostly a powder that's sitting on this kit. There's not really anything wrong with leaving it on there either, but getting that red off will help when we add primer later. I am seeing some bubbles though being filled in here, so I did an okay job on that. Oops. I did buy a bit of new paint for this kit when I was out last time at the hobby store, so there's a specific bottle of Mr. Color that I wanted to try on this kit, so when we get to the spoon testing or when I have some spare time, I will pull it out and can do some fun tests with it. I'm gonna drop a lot of stuff today. Yep, there's some micro bubbles for sure on this side. This area right here in the middle is a little bit interesting because there was a kind of a big line that I already filled in with the Tamiya light carrying putty, just because I didn't like the gap. There was a kind of a gap that was either left over from casting or just sculpted on there. I filled all that in, but I'm noticing there's a couple of micro bubbles that have also been hanging out here. Nothing too dramatic that I think I need to show on the camera. Just this putty doing its job of filling stuff in. And the primer will show it, of course, as well. Also, I do have like a bunch of paint on my fingers. I've been doing a lot of paint work, so. This camera got really red suddenly. I wonder. Let me see if I can change that real quick. Let's see. Filters. It's gonna get funky, perhaps. New shift? Nope, that's not it. Oh no. You guys see that when I change it? Changing the colors right now. That seems okay. Leave it on this for now. Maybe I just made it more red. Oh well. If I notice it gets crazy red, then I will adjust it again. Not really noticeable on your monitor. Okay, I think it might be that this new one is really sensitive to color. It's a new kind of screen that has new properties compared to the old monitor that I have, and so really small changes in color are super visible on it, which is great, you know, when I'm photo editing and looking at my stuff. But in terms of stream, it is a blessing and a curse, I guess. Just tuned in and the bloodbath has started. Yep. Hello, Cannon. We are starting out strong today. Gonna get all of this Bondo sanded out that we added on last time. That way we can focus more on the pinning later on and adding more putty to the next areas that we need to pin, such as the hair and her face, etc. So we're kind of working our way from the ground up. These pieces here have a couple bits that I need to sand down as well, but I did already putty. Oops, I'm gonna show it up close. I did already putty with stuff like this, so all of this is bondoed already. There's some on the back as well, so all of this line here, all of that's all been bondoed slash puttied. You can see there's quite a bit of holes here that kind of go all the way up. That's all stuff we had to fill in. Same with right here. You can see all along the back of her boots, those were all bondoed as well. So lots and lots of tiny micro holes on this kit. Definitely a byproduct of the casting process because I'm not really noticing any random bubbles. They're all on the seam lines, which seems pretty typical. I mean, the maid kit was that way too, but it's kind of hit and miss, depends. I think it must be more of a thing if you're hand casting or doing it at home. Although I'm not sure, this kit is so old at this point, it might have been sent to a studio or not. For casting, that's what I mean. Let me grab my cloth one too. There we go. But yeah, we're just gonna hang out today, do some relaxing sanding. Chill, stay cool, listen to nice music. And as always, if you guys have any questions at all about this process or just kit building, feel free to ask. I am here to answer on this Monday and Wednesday nights. I will need to start thinking about new stream days though, since as I mentioned before, I will be going to school in about a month and a half, and my new schedule or my classes are all on Monday and Wednesday nights. So everything that I planned in this schedule I've got going is gonna have to either shift, you know, one day, or we're gonna have to work something out. So I'm thinking of Thursday as a new day for sure, but the other day's kind of out of or up for, you know, grabs, I guess, depending on, you know, both what time I'm available and what time you guys will be available. Cannon, yeah, I know for you it probably won't match up anymore, so obviously the answer is talk to your job and say you have an important engagement that you need to change your work schedule. Oh, you might. Oh, that's new news. That is good. Hopefully. It'll probably be rough for a little while on your, you know, body as you get used to your new schedule, but let's see. You have to cover your graveyard. You have to cover your graveyard coworker. Oh, wow. So not great circumstances then for why you're being shifted. That's unfortunate. Oh my gosh. Was it an on-site injury or in his own personal time? And he just needs some time off and, you know, recovery period. Okay, so it was a personal injury. Oh, that's unfortunate. That's always rough when, like, you have to shift your schedule, you know, because something like that happens. Yeah, I think these streams, well, I don't think. I know they're going to be at night still, but it's just a matter of shifting the days. So, you know, a lot of times what I liked and the idea of it was not having them back to back, you know, so not like, you know, Monday, Tuesday, that sort of thing, which is why I chose Monday, Wednesday. But I don't know if I'm going to be super free on the weekend, and I want to reserve Tuesday nights in case I'm gonna need it to finish any schoolwork, since my big class load is on Wednesday. It's pretty much all of my classes are on Wednesday. So I think I'm just gonna do Thursday and then maybe Friday. I might do Fridays, depends. I'll have to think about it and figure it out. Oh, he did get hurt at work. Sorry, I just looked over there. Oh, well that sucks. Hope he's getting comped for that. Oh my gosh. That's horrible. Worksite injuries are no joke, especially, you know, if your workplace doesn't have good coverage or they tried to deny the claims, etc. Since I've just heard so many horror stories about that kind of thing. I'm kind of looking at this as I go along, guys. And there's definitely a bunch of tiny little nicks and areas where this Bondo is coming in handy. I don't know if they're visible on here. You can kind of see them, at least on my new shiny monitor. They're showing up here. There's one right here. And there's a bunch of like other small ones kind of in between here. So this was a good idea to go ahead and sand around this area. A random putty in here. Yeah, this was good. I had a feeling, because I did do some seam line work around here, that there would be small hints of bubbles or something, since all the other pieces had it. Just gotta kind of use your common sense when you're dealing with kits like this, guys. If you notice, you know, tiny holes on seam lines and on certain pieces, then you should probably be slightly suspicious of what could be on other pieces. So as a precaution, a lot of times, you know, when I'm working with kits like this, I just Bondo everything ahead of time, you know, like this. And if it doesn't have bubbles, then, you know, that's fine. We're still sanding down and smoothing these edges. This is an 800 grit, so we're not really taking off any resin here. We're just removing the Bondo. And it helps. Turns out that we did have issues on this. Whether or not they would be filled in with putty, kind of depends on the size of the primer. Kind of depends on the size of the micro hole. A lot of times, you know, you get a filler primer and it's kind of all in one. Those will fill in tiny holes, but some of them will show up as like little air pockets, so it just looks like a little hole indented. Oh, look at that! I could get big time followers. Let's see. Maybe I can ban this person. Block. We'll block. Ban them? Thank you, Curry. Yeah, look at that. I'm so popular I get Twitch bots now. I'm kidding. Anyway, I lost my train of thought because I was looking at that guy. Or bot, not even guy. Something. Oh yeah, primer and micro holes. But yeah, a lot of times if you have a primer that also kind of has filler properties, it will do some good work and fill in those tiny holes, but that also depends on how thick of a layer you put on. So a lot of times what I do is I apply a really thin layer of primer for the kind of first round, and that way any tiny micro holes or gaps or whatever will show up with the primer, but then you'll be able to fill it in and primer over it again with a thicker coat of primer, and it will all smooth down. But if you don't have a primer that does that, if you're using like a clear primer, for example, and that doesn't really fill in any holes, once you go in and you put your paint job on, you'll just end up with a bunch of like pockets, like little air bubble pockets on your kit, and that's not fun. And it just creates an uneven texture. So as a precaution, a lot of what I do is precaution. I do all this Bondo work ahead of time, and then once we prime, we kind of know what we're dealing with. And it works out, as you can see with that made kit. After we put on the primer, a lot of that kit was already pretty smooth because we had taken all the time and effort to diagnose those micro holes and fill in everything beforehand. So whatever is left over after that first primer round is usually pretty easy to correct. So I want to be famous? Like, oh my goodness. Trust me, this is not the stream to be at if you're looking for someone famous. Alright, we are about a little tiny bit over halfway around the edge here, but we have filled in quite a bit. There's a lot of these little spots that I've noticed. Mostly just tiny nicks, tiny little things that this red Bondo went and filled in. So it's doing its design job. Really not meant for much more than minor surface level stuff. And hopefully it's able to focus. I just realized that kind of giving the priority to this stuff, so do this. Just very quickly going over these pieces with that lacquer thinner because the Bondo does come off with it, and mostly I'm just removing dust. So you can see this dust will kind of like cake onto it. See how it's a different color? And you can wipe it away, that works too. But the lacquer thinner takes it off pretty much immediately. So I'll do some like minor rubbing off of it and then also wipe it down after. Okay, let me grab this little spongy one. This 3M one is actually pretty nice. I have the two types. There's the kind of hobby one, which doesn't have this kind of elasticy, rubbery texture to it. And so what you can really do with this 3M one, which is not the one I was just talking about, is stretch it out and then really get it into the cracks that you want to, and just kind of wipes it off. This is just a flexible sanding pad that I bought from an automotive store, and it's also 800 grit. So this is paper 800 grit, and this is you know, this flexible sandpaper 800 grit. A little tricky to grab though. And just cut to size, so you can cut it as thick or as thin as you need. Okay, there's a hole that I filled in there with some light curing putty. The object of interest as we're continuing to sand around here. A lot of micro holes along this area, and they're all just kind of scattered, and I think that putty just fell out. Yeah, there's like a big hole here, you can see. Right, well wait, right there, you can see. Did you say the flexible strip is auto supplies? Yes, yeah, so I purchased kind of a lot of random stuff when I'm working on kits, because sometimes the hobby brand stuff is just a little overpriced for other things that do the same job. So a lot of automotive supply things in terms of sandpaper and polishing papers and some putties. They overlap and you can use them in this hobby to save a little money or just avoid importing every single thing from Japan because that can get really expensive. So yeah, my sandpaper, at least these ones, are automotive sandpaper, and this one, so this is a 800 grit, this is a 1200 grit. Some of these automotive ones go up really high, and the hobby versions of those are pretty expensive when you could get the same thing a lot cheaper. So with polishing papers like 3000 grit and higher, I usually buy them from an automotive store. I buy the Bondo stuff. This is actually meant for cars, so before you prime your car, like your actual car, not a toy car, or a new paint job, some people use this product to kind of smooth out the imperfections. Same deal here, like we're smoothing it out and doing the same thing. And see, you can get premium tiny paintbrushes for less expensive than mediocre Warhammer paintbrushes. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so a lot of like the Warhammer stuff is so overpriced, and they just like capitalize on people who want to get into the hobby but aren't aware that there are cheaper supplies available. And so the primers, you know, that are in like general Warhammer type hobby stores, board game stores, those are all really expensive. The paints, those can vary, I think, because those are specifically made for you know, small tabletop gaming. And the quality of a lot of those is pretty good for hand painting. But yeah, things like the paintbrushes, etc., you can get much better equivalents on the Japanese market, or even just a regular paint store. You know, if you're looking for acrylic paintbrushes, you can get the same thing at a regular, you know, art store. Let's see. When pinning, if one end doesn't fit snug, do you fill that hole with putty and do you fill that hole with putty and Vaseline the rod? Generally, if a piece doesn't fit snug, kind of like what we're dealing with and what we're gonna have to do with this kit, you can see there's a gap here that wasn't accounted for, so it should be like this, right? But she's standing a little farther apart. You can try repinning it, so sometimes it's just like user failure. So you can see here this actually does fit, but once this piece is put on, it doesn't. So the first thing I generally try to do is address the fitting issue, and that's why we do a lot of dry fits. So pre-magnet, you know, we were testing this to make sure it would fit, and I can't even remember if it was supposed to fit or not, but in any case, a little too late now. So if you do run into a situation like this and maybe you can't like re-drill or anything, then yes, you will need to use a two-part putty and either correct the gap yourself, so fill the gap in like this, or you know, remove the rod and fill in the hole that you drilled, and then do another hole and drill that hole in. So I've done that before. I've had issues where the piece didn't fit, but I knew it fit during the test fitting, you know, before magnets or anything. And so in that case, yeah, I pull out the rod, I fill in the hole with, you know, either usually it's not a two-part, usually I'm using a, you know, acrylic gel, or a UV gel, or this one, or yeah, usually I end up just using like a Tamiya putty or this. And then I re-drill wherever I need to. And sometimes just bending the rod works too. So I've also had issues where, you know, you insert the pin one way and maybe it needs to be like this way. And so if you bend the rod just a little bit, then sometimes you can get a better fit, which is why we recommend using brass rods. So rods that bend super easy, because if you are using steel rods, it's a lot harder. So see how easy the brass stuff bends? And so you can kind of like manipulate the brass wire in an easier way than you would be able to with steel wire. Hi, Mr. Freaky. You did not miss pinning yet. We are just going all in and sanding down some of that putty we put on Wednesday. So you are good. I'm hoping to get to pinning today, but I'm not sure if that's gonna happen. It probably will, but it just kind of depends. Depends how chatty I am and how quick I am working. And you know that's usually not very quick, so. Have you heard of Damn Good UV glue? No, I haven't. Do you use that product? And or what is it? Is it resin gel or is it an actual glue? There are so many products available these days that it's just kind of like, you know, you can get all sorts of effects with different things. You heard it's similar to UV gel. Interesting. Let me actually look that up real quick then. So let me put this stuff down. Damn good UV glue. Is it a US product? Oh, interesting. This, let's see. Plastic weld with UV light. It looks like the concept is the same, but I'm not sure if this is a resin or not. Reading. Yeah, I'm reading the item description, and the application method is pretty much identical to the UV gel, to this gel, in terms like you will want to apply thin layers if you're filling in something deep, and then make sure that each layer is cured or dried by applying the UV light. Oh wait, maybe I skipped. Let's see, follow using our UV glue. It looks like it's liquid plastic, so that's interesting, and that's a slightly different material type than the resin. So I am not sure how that would act, especially if you're using lacquer paint to paint, because if you're filling in a lot of these bubbles and stuff with a plastic glue, which, you know, it might not be clear what it is fully chemically, that lacquer thinner might react badly with plastic, because lacquer has a tendency to melt plastic, especially if it's not fully protected. So cannot say whether or not to fully recommend that yet, because it did say it was plastic, but it also didn't see a full I guess ingredients list or the chemical composition, so I can't say for sure. Where did I get my UV gel from? I think I ordered this from Hobby Search, so the Japanese website Hobby Search, way long ago. It was like definitely pre-COVID. I've had this bottle for quite a few years now, and it still is like about this full. So Hobby Search does have a fair number of hobby related things that, you can import. So I didn't have any import restrictions on this UV gel there, because it's, I don't know, apparently not flammable enough, not toxic enough, and so they were able to ship it by plane, you know, so regular shipping method to me. So that, I don't know if it's still available. It's been a long time since I bought it. Haven't looked to see if it's on seal model or anything like that either. But I do enjoy using this glue, or this gel. It's lasted me a long time. It's been consistent application. It does shrink a tiny bit, and so a lot of times I, you know, apply a bit and then I let it dry and sand it down, and sometimes I need a second application, but then after that it's pretty much good. I've also heard that just, you know, nail supply stores have, you know, UV nail gel, because that is used a lot in the hobby, or in the nail, you know, it's not really nail hobby because it's a lot of people's careers. The nail profession, yeah, the nail profession, UV setting resin and gel is really popular there, and so you can potentially, you know, buy those products for cheaper as well. But I haven't experimented with that since I do just only have this bottle, and I've been happy with it, and it's lasted me a long time. Let's see, I use Bondic UV setting resin, and that seems to play nice with resin and plastic kits. That's interesting, because I've never heard of that product either. There's so many products, you guys, that, like, I'm happy you guys are listing them, because I have had no idea what those are. I'm gonna have to look up that one too. Actually, let me look it up now. Let's see, Bondic UV setting resin. Bondic UV resin. This might be a UK product. Oh wait, nope. Let's see. Bondic. Plastic welder. Adhesive. Waterproof, heat resistant, UV activated. It is not a glue. Okay, so yeah, this one seems a little closer to not a glue, not a plastic, but again, not really sure here. It does say plastic welder, so. UV glue the same as UV resin. Interesting. I use UV resin as doing some research. Okay, that's an adhesive. We don't really want an adhesive. Interesting things. I don't know for sure, but if it works for you, then I trust you. I'll have to look into that and see. Always on the hunt for alternative things. Also, this laptop is toasty. Let me, well, I don't know if I have the settings right now on this to make it not toasty. Whatever, we'll have to deal with it. Okay, see some more comments. Seal Model hasn't sent my order. Both of you guys? Oh boy, time to email them. Although they're still probably working through their endless backlog of things. If it's been around a month, that's probably about the time where your order is getting there and almost processing, because I feel like a lot of my stuff ships out in 3 weeks to a month from them. It always takes a long time. I've never had it ship in under 2 weeks. And so you gotta like plan ahead for like 3 months plus, and then put on another month on top of that for your order processing. So rough time. Really only use them now for when I want to do these big bulk restocks. And even then, a lot of people are aware of this company now, and so it's getting harder and harder to have their products in stock at like the right time. You really got to catch them when they do like a really good restock, or else you're potentially not going to get the stuff that you need. That does remind me that after this stream, I need to do a restock of some minor things, and so I gotta buy some paints because I have enough to make it through my current project, but I'm gonna need some more paint for this. Yeah. I'm running low on the stuff that you don't want to run low on, as in like colors to mix, so. Well, hopefully stuff is still available. Let's see, I paid them like a month ago. Oh yeah, I just read that, sorry. Zen Market has been packing my order since the 7th. Ooh, yeah, they take a little while sometimes to pack stuff up too. I give them like a couple days in between things generally. I did put in a minor order from them, and they got back to me pretty quickly, so hopefully they are able to process your order and get it out to you soon. Once it's like out of their hands and into the post, it's fine, but it's all these, you know, slowdowns that companies are having now just because maybe they're short of staff too, or just everybody, the demand is up. Indoor hobbies are, you know, thriving now because COVID, and because people discovered them during COVID. So a lot of paint and a lot of things that I, you know, have needed for a while have been really difficult to find. And today I just read that rubber is apparently the new shortage that could potentially happen, so there were a lot of things that are in the supply chain in terms of raw materials now, which are just not happening. Let's see, I think I read some parts of Japan are going back into lockdown, which probably isn't helping. Yeah, I read that they are in a new state of emergency, I think that was it. At least that's what was popping up on my Twitter. And I don't remember what regions that was in, but it's very possible that they could be the ones that their warehouses and areas are located in. Let's see, I never received a shipping email from Seal Model, but I got the package in 3 months. I think they sometimes just forget. Yeah, I don't really get anything from them either. It's like if they get it, then fine. Sometimes you have to be the one following up on it, especially if they haven't shipped it. You know, threaten them with a claim. Don't do that if you don't want to get banned. But yeah, there was I think my last order, or maybe it was the order before that, they took forever getting back to me. And so I just basically was like, is this still happening? You know, because I ordered these paints a month ago and I don't even know if you pulled them out. Like, they could be sold out now. What's the deal? Yeah, I think it's just a couple of people working at Seal Model, and maybe even less than a couple. It's always the same person who replies to me, so it may just be that one dude that's working there. So I guess we just, for such a good service and it's been around long enough and we get access to stuff that we normally can't get access to, we just kind of got to deal with it. I am thankful that other stores have kind of picked up the slack for big stuff though. You know, the main brands like Volks, New Type, USA Gundam, Sprue Brothers, etc. They generally have a decent selection, and this is all US stores, so if you're in the UK, my apologies. Australia also has a really nice selection of stuff because they are pretty close to Japan, so a lot of times when I'm Googling paint orders, or not paint orders, but paint brands, a lot of the sites that come up are in Australia. I'm like, well, that's great, but I can't order from you because you won't ship overseas either. Maybe I should just message someone or message them and be like, could you ship this on Surface? Probably not. They'd have to have it arranged already. Okay, so I finished going all around this kit, and right now I'm just kind of sanding in the middle here. There are a couple of problematic spots that I noticed, and I wanted to potentially see if those had any micro holes or just areas to fill in. Looks like I did, so at least for this piece. So this one over here will be the other one that I will check. And the rest of the kit, yeah, there were quite a few little nicks and tiny bubbles that filled in all around the sides. So this was a good decision to put putty on those areas. Has anyone here ordered from Bluefin? Can you order from them directly, or is that more like a distributor type deal? Because I know that my local hobby shop orders stuff directly from Bluefin, in terms of like getting Mr. Hobby colors and that sort of thing. But what they get, they told me, is kind of like a crapshoot, because they order a bunch of stuff, but then maybe like a quarter of it comes in. So I don't know if they are open to people individually or not. If not, totally cool too. Just was curious. I think they're mostly just a distributor, so if they're like selling in bulk to places, then they probably aren't open up to the individual consumer. And they mostly deal in like Gundam stuff anyway, so. Okay. Yeah, definitely a bunch of little nicks here. Hoping I could just wipe out the putty that's kind of stuck down here in the bottom, but not really coming out. It was a little rough though, so if I'm able to fill in this area and smooth it down, then that's just fine with me too. A tiny bit of dust and kind of just blowing off into the wind here. Really not very much at all. Okay, let me grab one last bit of this sandpaper. There we go, just kind of smooth that down. Yep, that was a good idea to also put some putty in that area. Not sure if it will be visible. Yeah, you can see it. There's quite a bit of red popping up here, you can see, against this bright white background. That's all stuff that I had kind of sanded out, but there are a couple holes in here that I noticed and had to fill in. So right here And then up here as well, there are a bunch of tiny micro holes and stuff. So I think that concludes this. Oh, nope, there's one more here. I completely forgot about this. Okay, guess we'll sand this down too.
So sorry.
I don't even remember what was here. Maybe there was a scratch or something that I noticed. This is a tricky spot. I need a little bit more leverage, so let me pull out. Okay. There we go. 400 would really take this putty off, but I want to try to minimize the amount of scratching damage on this kit. And so my concern is if I get in these crack areas or these clothing folds with the 400, I'm just going to tear up the resin, and then I'll have to spend time sanding and smoothing it at an awkward angle. It's not really ideal. Easier for me just to go kind of like this and put that putty into the gap. Wipe stuff off as needed. Kind of wet the putty down a tiny bit as well. See, there's a model on Booth you love that's out of stock. Have you ever had any luck messaging the maker and see if they're going to make more? I have done that before, and it's honestly up to the sculptor whether or not they, one, accept DMs, because a lot of times you have to go through them on Twitter, or two, you know, if they'll actually do it or not. It was recommended that if you like a model on Booth, and if you, I'm assuming you have a Pixiv Booth account, give that model a little heart. So on every page listing, there's a little heart where you can, it's almost like a like. If a lot of sculptors use that, the number of likes on it, as an indication of whether or not they should continue making more batches. And so if it's a really popular model, chances are it'll have more than a couple runs, or be in stock. But if it's not popular, if the sculptor doesn't see it that way, then your chances are pretty slim. I think it also will depend on the popularity of the sculptor. And so if you're, you know, if you're looking at someone like Eldora Model, this is a circle that's very popular, makes a lot of very cute girl kits. They sell their kits over and over and over, and so you'll have a lot of luck in potentially snagging a rerun of that kit. However, if you are interested in someone super indie and maybe doesn't have a huge startup or following, it could be a lot tougher. I think it would be highly recommended to send them a message and you know, be heartfelt about it. Say that, you know, you're in a, you know, someone who builds models and you really love their work and would love the chance to buy it authentic, you know, etc. I've had a lot of luck in people being kind and willing to sell, at least by going that route. Sometimes though, like you could just be out of luck if the sculptor doesn't accept DMs and if the order is just closed, you know, so that's part of the kit hobby too, is just sometimes not being able to get it. There are many original kits that I have on my kind of holy grail list, but I don't ever hope to see them, and if they pop up, usually a complete random chance. Okay. Booth these days is great though, because, you know, the sculptors who are putting their kits on it are usually able to sell them at least one round, and they will tweet about it sometimes and say like, hey, I'm thinking of opening a second round of orders, you know, maybe it'll be on this day, etc. Or they run polls sometimes. So I would also recommend you follow the sculptor on Twitter for the booth that, like, shop that you're interested in, because I have seen sculptors run polls on Twitter where they say, you know, how much interest is there in a second run, and the more the better. Yeah, no problem. I kind of rant and long term about it. But OCs are one of my very favorite things, and so really I try to follow artists that I like who produce a lot of original works and then support them to my very best, you know, catching their sales on Booth, trying to order from them directly, etc. There's just so much potential for OC kits that you can do, and they're just a really fun thing to add in your collection because there's a little less pressure, you know, they're great. Okay, this kit is now, or this piece is mostly done. There was this tiny hole here though that I do want to fill in with some more light curing putty. Not really sure what happened last time, or maybe I just missed it somehow. So I'm gonna fill this in, and then we can sand that down and we should be good to move on. Okay, there's one thing I need to check real quick. Oh, never mind. Curry, I was checking you. I cannot believe it. Okay. Whoops. Sorry, I'm kind of pulling this off screen. Like I said, I really like to work like really close, and so like proximity here, right here is the edge of my desk, and so I'm just like moving it this way, but I will move up, and that way you guys can see what I'm doing. So right now I'm just adding a bunch of this light curing putty into this. Definitely this is an air bubble that popped during casting, but I did drill a little bit more into that air bubble to kind of give this putty a nice place to grip. So I'm gonna add a little more than I need to here. And what I do sometimes is I just kind of push on it, and that pushes the putty into the hole that you drilled in the air bubble. Not 100% necessary, but a lot of times with these putties, I end up hitting an air hole after I get this putty drying, and so pushing it into that air bubble helps me minimize the holes. And now I'm just holding this up to the light because this is light curing putty. It will be dry in about 30 seconds or so. Let me get a drink in the meantime. My nice water cup. Using a paper straw that I found in my drawer though, and it's not really working out. It's just kind of like holding over on me. I like paper straws, but some brands are more superior than others. Some of them just get kind of like, not moldy, but they decompose very easily in water. It's like, well, what is the purpose of this then? I need to buy myself some metal straws, like the stainless steel ones. Those ones are really nice. And they make them for boba too. I had a lot of bubble tea this weekend because I was doing a lot of spending time with a friend who had come to visit, and it was so much fun. Ate out a lot though, and definitely had a lot of bubble tea. I think I had like 3 of them over the course of the weekend, which is a lot for me. Okay, so this is pretty good now. You can see it basically filled in right in this tip. You can barely see it now. It's kind of a brighter yellow, but really once that fades out, it won't be visible at all. And I don't really see any extra bubbles in the tip, meaning that, or in it, which means that I filled it in all the way. So great. I think with that, we are ready to move on from this piece. So that's good. We've still got a lot, so I think we're just gonna be sanding for most of today. But what I can do is we'll get all these pieces sanded and then put Bondo on some of the other ones, and that way they'll be ready on Wednesday. And I might do the adding putty on this, not sure. I've also been leaving these alone. I just don't really feel like working on them right now. The boots here, you can see there's kind of a lot of random stuff to lock in and fill in here. There are a lot of tiny micro holes on the ribbons, the, you know, little spaces, and so I'm just going to leave that for now. We'll come back to it, or maybe I'll do it tomorrow. And now I'm just messing around here. Okay. I did like how this kit stands though. Once you take her off the paper towel, she stands really nice. So kits that are self-standing are so nice, because then all you have to do is just drill the rod straight up into the bottom of the foot, like, you know, probably like this, and then bend that brass wire, and it will just sit so solidly on your base. I haven't thought about what I want to do on the base on this kit though. I should think of something fun. There's definitely some thrift store stuff that could happen. I don't know if I feel like using an acrylic base on this kit. That's kind of like the easy way out I've been doing for quite a few of my kits lately. It would be fun to do something a little more unique. I don't have a laser printer or anything though, so nothing like that will be involved. But alright, we're gonna continue sanding. Each piece probably won't take quite as long now because this was the largest piece of the kit. So all these are pretty small, all things considered. I'm trying to like give you a sense of scale, but it's about, you know, almost 1/2 of a Q-tip, so really not a lot. Let's see, I'll give it a try, thanks. Oh wait, I already read that. Doing a lot of rereading. If you follow people on Boost, does it tell you when they release something? Yes, I believe so. There's a couple of artists that I follow, and on the front page, I think, when you kind of log into Booth or when you're just checking stuff out, it'll say like, oh, what's like new and hot from these sculptors that you follow, and it generally just pulls up everyone that I follow and the new stuff they have. So I would say yes to that. What do you mean don't remind you, Canon? Are you having base troubles? Can't decide on what to do? I'm gonna throw away this one. Some of these 800s are getting kind of full. A lot of red on this. Oh, that's why. Oh my goodness. I'm expecting a lot of micro holes on this piece, just FYI. There was, this was one of the pieces where I noticed it and was like, oh, that's, I need to do this on the other kit, or on the other pieces of this kit. So, when that happens, you know, it's kind of gonna be rough. And I'll show you guys exactly what I mean after I sand down this area, just briefly. Oh, you have to order some. Oh, that's not too bad. Just gotta like pick the right size you want, or maybe do some thrifting, etc. Depends on what you're trying to do. I generally find the base part kind of fun because you can like print decals on it or make your own. But I like the construction part of things too, so that's probably why. Alright, so to show you guys what I mean here, and hopefully it will show, if not I'll take a photo. That, and kind of, oh my gosh, you can see it right here. There's all these bubbles that are showing up along the arm here. And we didn't get too far yet. Let me take one quick photo. That's a good one. It's a little blurry, I just shook my hand, but sorry for the blurriness, but all of these here, those are all the bubbles that I've literally just sanded down. So we're not even like, you know, at the edge here, and we're filling in all of that. So that's good. Some of these I have a feeling I might need to go in and just drill out and fill in again with the light curing putty. They may pose an issue if this Bondo decides to shrink at all. Again, with some of these slightly larger holes, it's just sometimes easier to drill into them and fill them in with a putty that won't shrink quite as much. Okay. Really need to pick some of these larger sandpapers. I'm like holding on to this with my tiny end of my finger. The insides of these hands were also pretty rough, so like the inner side here, that's going to be a little bit fun and tricky to get all the bubbles out of that. Lots coming up on her elbow here. So much red. You can see all this red coming off here. This stuff does wipe off pretty easily. especially if you have, I think this was it, right? The melamine. You can see it just brushes as I do this. Mostly comes off, so you can get a couple rounds with the 800 before just like tossing it out or washing it, etc. If you're using nice hobby sandpaper, I would recommend, trying to clean it up a little more, because kind of a waste if you throw it away after not that much use. Also depends how good the grits stay on, I guess. How much sanding you're actually doing. Okay. Again, lots of little holes being filled in along the edge of her outside area of her hand and arm here. Very quickly over this. There we go. Yep, lots more here. You can see the edge, a little bright, but all of that red. This one's gonna be a pain to prime. I know it. Also, such a shame. I really dislike it when skin pieces have these kinds of issues, because it takes quite a bit of work to fill them all in with the clear resin if you want to go the, pure just bare resin and clear primer route. A lot of what I do in this case, and like what I did with the maid, is I just end up priming in white and then doing the clear skin. But it's just not having the option to use clear primer or have a nice cast piece for skin tone is kind of a pain, because really you just want that nice flawless surface, especially when it comes to painting skin. At least for anime figures. One of the kits that I worked on, an OC that I did, her face just had tons and tons of these little dots and pock marks, and took quite a bit of work to get all of that sanded to a point where I was happy with it. At that point, you're basically priming it, sanding down all the primer, or wiping it off, filling in all of the holes, repeat the process, etc. Can be quite time consuming. Even along her little hands here, there's so many tiny little holes. And this is not stuff that will easily sand down, so what I mean by that, you won't get rid of these holes by just sanding them down. You need to fill them in, otherwise you're going to end up over sanding your kit. Kind of getting in between her fingers right now. A pointy drill, tiny little precision drill would also do the same thing here, but I do not have that, so I'm just using this 800 grit. Fold it over. Alright, gonna work on her thumb. I need to wipe this off, I think. Yeah, it's looking like this will probably just be a sanding night with maybe some minor pinning at the end or bondoing. I wanted to get some of this bondo out of the way before this stream, but just not possible with my schedule. This coming weekend's probably gonna be pretty busy too, so really everything's kind of ramping back up now that summer's in session and school's picking up stuff, and so okay. It's kind of an annoying glob here that I don't necessarily need, so I'm just gonna wipe that off. Alright, so rather than work this way, I'm gonna work this way. Let me move some of this stuff so hopefully it will focus a little better. So yeah, I'm going to, there we go. So yeah, I'm gonna work from the top down here rather than up this way, but maybe it will be visible. Nope. Let me take another brief photo and that way you guys can see. Okay. So ignore her like scary bit of resin down here, but all of this is all scratching and bubbles, as you can see. So especially like all along here, that's literally the seam line that we sanded down. So the seam line went here, it goes in here, and then up this way. And all of those areas have little bits of, you know, nicks and other things that needed to be filled in. So really good idea we decided to do this. It will pay off later on, but just preliminary prep, you gotta be careful about it. But it's pretty satisfying still to get all this stuff filled in. I actually quite like this process, you know, the puttying and filling. You can see this kit's just kind of chilling up here, standing in the corner. I think this YouTube, or not YouTube, sorry, Spotify playlist added some new songs in, since I'm hearing some stuff I'm not really familiar with. For a long time it kind of kept playing the same stuff. I'm still hearing some of the same ones. Is it Lily Pichu? Oh god. There's nothing against her though. So satisfying to see a scene completely sanded down. Yeah, that's my favorite too. Like once you get it all sanded, everything smoothed out, and it just, yeah, no bubbles left. It's so good. I didn't know Lily Pichu makes music though. I actually don't really know much about her at all, so I don't follow YouTubers or many Twitch streamers, so I just know she's very popular. But this is not a bad song. She's gonna be again. I read that as Grenlin. Yeah, she is actually gonna be in Genshin. Before I go on another Genshin rant, yeah, I think Lily Pichu is one of the voicing one of the English characters, you know, the English language characters in Genshin's newest update. So, is she the little raccoon lily girl? I don't follow English VAs like at all, so I have no idea. I only follow Japanese VA. But that's cool that she got that role, I guess. Okay. Alright, so we're gonna keep going. This stretchy one is pretty good for these areas, like in between the elbow. Pretty good. Got a lot of that off. A lot of powder. This stuff actually fills in quite well on here. And a little go a long way on this dust though. Okay. There's one area in the middle here which I would like to get out, but I don't want to over sand, so I'm gonna need to pour some more, oops, thinner out of my cup real quick, I think. Not a lot of surface area on this kit, so there's a lot of little red coming off here. Here and see. This looks like she has burns, 3rd degree burns all over her hand. The worst. these big patches of red. Like almost done with this piece though. Yeah, just this last bit here I wanted to get off, and then we'll rub it down a little bit with some of that thinner, clean up the red powder. I do appreciate all of you guys watching my stream right now. It does mean a lot, as always, since especially we are at the point where I guess we've been doing it quite a while, right? It's been quite a few months. We have a finished kit under our belt. Makes me happy. It's a good decision to do this, and I was afraid it would impact, you know, my personal kit building and everything, but so far it's been pretty good. Hasn't done any of that, so. Alright, I think this piece is, for now, good. As in, like, it needs a lot of work, and once we prime it, it's gonna be pretty hellish, I think. Let me get a photo real quick of the inside so you guys can see. Try to get a better one. That's a nice one. Okay. So here's what the inside of her arm looks like. This is fully sanded down, so all that you're seeing here is what's gone into the resin. So all of these bubbles and chicken pox, this is all on the kit right now, and those are air bubbles that have filled in. So really it's everything in this seam line. It's just sinking in there. And the other side is the same way too. It's got all of those bubbles that it filled in. There's also a handful that kind of went along her shoulder blade, mostly along the top. There's not really, so you can see where the seam lines are. There's nothing along, you know, the edge here or the edge here, but it's all here and here. So that's very much a casting issue. But that's good that this piece is done for now. We're gonna move on to the other hand now, which is pretty much the similar situation, I think. Just, you know, gonna have to sand all that down and get it ready. This piece here also, I think I will need to do a little bit more sanding down on the bottom here of her shoulder blade, because, or I guess that would be her armpit, not shoulder blade, sorry. Because it doesn't fit in properly, so this piece fits in fine. You can see it's pretty snug. Fits in. You know, I haven't pinned this yet, but the dry fit is really good. This is what we call dry fit. So without any, you know, pins or magnets or anything installed, the fit looks like what we want to see. However, this side is not really the case. It fits in at kind of the middle, but this shoulder blade here needs to be down. It needs to be like this. Sorry, if it will zoom in again. Yeah, there we go. So it needs to be down like this. Right now it's kind of lopsided and it's not fitting in. And I think that's because I need to sand down this bottom here. It's kind of a triangular shape. It actually is triangular-ish down here, but we also had a bunch of extra resin that I carved out of this side here. And so there's a bunch of like fit issues with this piece that I noticed that we're gonna have to do and correct before we even try to magnetize and or pin this hand. I think what we're gonna do for this part is magnets, because these arms will be magnetized, and then she's gonna have a brass wire going down her torso, just like the maid. It's a little easier to install heads that way, and especially once you get like all this hair and junk, if it's too heavy, the magnetized head is just gonna fall off no matter what. So in that case, a magnet or a pin is a better choice. Let me set aside this. We also have these we need to sand down too, so lots and lots of work. But then after that, I think after those two pieces, we can continue the pinning / magnetizing and getting the Bondo on her head and such. So we should have time for some of that tonight. Okay, let's see. I've got a bunch of random bits in here. These are all fine grit though. and some random 400s. So we'll need to pull out a bit more 800. Okay, we're gonna start from the outside and top again. It's a little easiest. Get some of this 400. Knock this off. And that's pretty smooth piece, so I'm just gonna move on to this. Can't recall if this piece was just as bad. I know that one shoulder and arm was pretty rough on the other piece, but oh yeah, I also need to get a little bit more thinner out of my thinner jug here, so just pour some out real quick off screen. I'm going through this stuff so quickly now. I just feel like it's been non-stop kit building for like a year. Been indoors, not going out, just endless working on stuff. Oops, shifted my camera a little bit. Okay. Got a small bit on my cup now, so push this stuff back and put this over here. Would not want to spill that over. All right, let's get going. So far, not really seeing any though. Hope I didn't just like put this on the putty on the wrong area. Wipe some of that down. Generally, it's a little easier to see where the holes are starting to pop up. I'm really not seeing that many though. That's a good sign. There were a couple here though, I know. Can't tell if that's just the area that it filled in or a putty blob. Nope, looks like a blob. Okay, well, I'm not really seeing any so far. That's good, but just makes me more suspicious that I put it in the wrong area or something. Oh, there's a few. I'm seeing what's happening here, you guys, and I see the bubbles and I see this putty and it's just like very slightly too low, meaning I think I missed where the bubbles were. So I probably will have to skip this piece. Actually, I think we can do the inside, but the outside, I'm gonna have to add some more Bondo, because what happened here is I puttied kind of along the top here and I needed to go down farther here. That was, yeah, and there's some spots here which you guys can't see, but I can on in person. Yeah, I'm going to have to re-putty that area. I don't know what I was thinking. I just kind of missed it. Especially because I had spent all that time saying it's not on the sides, it's just, you know, up and down the arm. And then I didn't even do that for my own work. So in that case, if we're just wiping off putty, we can go ahead and just use a cotton swab. We'll be re-puttying this anyway. Okay. However, I do need to do the inside because I did for sure putty this area here. So, and sorry if you guys are hearing that. That's my dehumidifier. Normally I would turn that off, but I really do need it lately. So It's very, very humid here. It will shut off in a matter of minutes after it's lowered the humidity to an appropriate level, so. Okay, let's get some of this. So yeah, that's fine. We won't finish this piece today because we'll be adding more putty to it later, but that's fine. I might just wipe all of this off too, honestly. There's a bunch kind of on the hand in random spots. Doesn't look as if it's filling in any holes though. It's just kind of sitting. Switch up my Q-tip shortly. Okay. Q-tip. Time for bed. Thanks for stream. Yeah, sounds good, Rebel. Good seeing you. Thank you for tuning in. And I hope you have a good rest. Hopefully we can get all of this out of the way, and then Wednesday will be just mostly more pinning. Keep choosing these kits that are taking all this work, but it's good because it gets some of these tougher ones out of my closet. A lot of times, especially, I actually have been putting this kit off for quite a long time. I bought this kit a long time ago. Sometimes you just don't feel like taking on a project that requires, you know, a lot of sanding and prep and etc. So doing this gets these out and displayed. Also just didn't really have the spark for this one. Ever since I bought her, I had a feeling I wanted to do a different color scheme, but it never really had an idea of what I wanted to do. And then I was thinking about what kits I wanted to stream next, and there were 3 or 4 choices out of my closet, and I just kind of decided on this one because I had a moment where I thought, I think I know how I want to paint her now. And these days, that's pretty much the only thing that gets these kits out of my closet, is I like go through my list of owned stuff and then I think about each one for a little bit. For original characters, it's, you know, a little more freedom to choose, obviously, your color scheme, etc. So if I'm working with a licensed character, it's like, do I feel like, you know, handling this licensed character now? Is it the right time? If so, then yes, I will work on it. But OCs can take me quite a while because I'm like not sure what I want to do. Also depends on my current lineup. So because I've had a lot of commissions lately of licensed characters, I have been able to have a little more freedom in selecting OCs. So I kind of like to balance it out between licensed characters and then my own original color schemes. Keeps it fresh for me. Okay, I think this is pretty much sanded. Before I forget, I'm going to apply the putty now, and then we'll just kind of set this piece to the side. I'm not really expecting to do anything else to it. Probably tonight for the rest of the time. I have that's a really tiny little, I don't know why I cut it that small. Dropped the lid. Yeah. Oops. Okay. I had to adjust my chair because if the chair goes at the wrong angle, it just like hits the tripod that my camera's sitting on. So, all right, we're gonna pull out a little bit of that and rub this putty in along the outside. That was the deal. I'm not gonna thin this yet. Probably should have a glove on for this, but I also need to restock on my gloves. This hobby's expensive, y'all. It really is. I feel like I buy one thing and then I need like 5 more things. And it's not even me making frivolous purchases. It's just straight up like I'm out of supplies. I think that that's also because I've been doing more and painting more and working more with kids, so the stock drains quicker. Oops. That's helpful. I'm gonna lay all this putty down, and then I think I'm gonna put just a tiny bit of thinner over it, and so it'll all kind of melt and blend down. Okay. Oh, there goes the humidifier. Dehumidifier, I should say. I'm also gonna hold this piece up to the light because I want to double check and make sure that I find those holes. Okay. Yep. So definitely hold your piece up. You'll be able to see. I'm trying to find out where they go along her fist. This one's tough. I might have to wait until this area is primed. The inside has a few as well, but I got most of them already. I'm gonna lay a bit more down. Yeah, I'm not really sure where those other ones are. Where's my... There we go. This would work. Oops. That's weird. So I have all these little eyedroppers, but sometimes when you buy them in bulk, they get extra junk all over them. Alright, so I'm just gonna kind of very lightly... Doesn't even have to wipe my hand on it. I just want it to thin down the tiniest bit. So it'll soak into those holes if needed. Should be okay to start with. A little more here. Again, looking like she's got some sort of virus or third-degree burn. In. Alright, we're gonna leave that for now. I can always do a kind of a second pass on it later, but I want to make sure that that has a chance to dry and hopefully fill in some of the areas. So we're gonna move on to these ones, which, you know, again, are really small pieces in terms of, you know, how big they are, so it shouldn't take that long to sand them down. And that's it for the rest of the Bondo, besides the feet, which I'm avoiding on purpose. I just don't want to deal with it. So after I finish these two pieces, these little scrunchies, so to say, we still have some time left, so we will Bondo and pin possibly. I do need to pin the front of her ribbon to her ripped clothes, so this piece here, so we can do that for sure, and we should have enough time for that. So I'll actually plan on doing that after this, after we sand these down. Oh, humidifier's back on. I didn't even notice. If it's too loud or if it's bothering you guys, let me know, and that way I'll just turn it off. I do know that there was some background noise in one of my, maybe a couple of my past vlogs with it. Just that time of the season. And I don't even have a window open, so it would be even worse with the window open. So I think the goal for this was similar to the outside of those torn clothes. I'm not 100% sure, 100% sure if there were any holes in this, but we were doing this as a precaution. And these scrunchies are kind of at an angle, so I can like sand one side of them and then the other side and still maintain the shape of them. They're pretty angular. And there's a couple of pinholes here. Tiny, tiny ones. Some of those look like just spots that I missed when I filled them in with the light curing putty. Okay, and I'm not gonna bother with the inside of those. I think I covered that already. Just because we're not really gonna see these, and the attention is definitely not going to be on the inside of those scrunchies. You're barely gonna see them. So why create extra work? This stuff just wipes off. I don't really think that there's that many holes here, which is good. Give this a wipe. I don't think there's any here, so I'm gonna do some preliminary down. Just such a small piece. You know, even just like gripping it, I'm holding it really tight to make sure that I don't drop it or break or fall off or anything. I definitely tend to grip and bend pieces sometimes too much, so you have very thin resin bits, just be mindful that it doesn't take a lot of strength to break them. Stuff like this is not going to snap in half, but if you're dealing with really thin things like ribbons, etc., it's definitely possible. So just, you don't have to, you know, hold this down really far on it. It's still going to sand even if you're applying a light amount of pressure to it. Okay, this one is pretty much all sanded down at this point. Yeah, it's dehumidifier. There are a couple of holes though. There are a few spots where it did fill in stuff. So I'm not going to wipe this down with too much more of this thinner. Otherwise it's just going to take it right out. And again, once, well, there goes the piece. I don't know where that went, guys. Oh, there it is. Got lucky. Sometimes I drop it and it's just gone. Okay, so right there. Make sure my fit between the tripods good. Yep. Okay. So yeah, there was one small area here that I wanted to fix or sand out. But yeah, this one's pretty much good too. So we'll add this into the pile. Got over here, you guys can't see it, but they are there. They are hanging out. All right, one more, and then we're gonna switch to magnetizing because we want to do at least a little bit of that before the night ends. And it should be fairly straightforward. The pieces are, the dry fit's really good, and there's no, I guess, barriers that would make it so the pieces won't fit well with a magnet. We will have to be mindful of the polarity though, so I'll have to do a brief test because, actually, I don't know why I keep doing this. This kit's so weird. I don't know why it fits this way. Okay, there are a bunch of magnets in her torso, right? So let's zoom in here. So there are a bunch of magnets in her torso, and we want this ribbon to fit like so. And so in order to do that, we're going to have to make sure that the polarity matches, you know, what's going down here. We'll be able to drill in right here. So I'm going to have to double check and see things. Oops, so that goes flying. Because the last thing we want is to install a magnet and then, you know, try to put this ribbon down, and we're just like not able to because of the polarity of the magnet. So you really want it to just snap right in. If you install it the wrong way, it won't do that ever. That's just, you know, the power of magnets. So yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, planning out the rest of the night, we will finish this piece, start magnetizing and gluing down the ribbon, and in the meantime, while we're waiting for that glue to dry, we will put down Bondo on the rest of the pieces. And that should take us through to the end of today. So, a little bit of everything tonight. Oh, except for the two-part smooth stuff. I might have to do that on Tuesday then. But I really want to show you guys on camera. Bummer. We'll see. Oops. Maybe I'll just wait till Wednesday to do that so I can show you guys gap filling on Wednesday, and we can also work on the hair at that point too. Okay. This piece is slightly worse, I think. There are some scratches / surface level stuff that filled in. You can also see my sandpaper is getting pretty clogged up here, so try to brush some of that off. It's getting pretty smooth too, so I might need another piece soon. Again, this is going pretty smooth, pretty quickly. I'm not really finding any big bubbles. Most of the issues on this piece that I'm finding are in between the points of this hairband / hair. Not really sure. So probably just remainders of the seam line stuff that I kind of missed, because this piece did have seam lines running all along the outside and kind of on the inside too, if I'm being honest, but all I did was kind of carve out the seam line with an X-Acto knife on the inside. Okay, just a few more of these little bumps. This will be interesting to pin as well. I'm not quite sure if we can even pin these. It may be a simple gluing situation because the area for this is probably too small even for a 1/16 1/16 inch magnet. The diameter is even smaller than the smallest pin that I have and the smallest magnet I have, so at most I could probably install some jewelry wire into this, but at that point, like, how much stability is that really offering, especially for this? I'm guessing not much. So I might just decide to drill this in really thin and not insert a pin, just only use a pin for gluing, or not gluing, sorry, I'm not being very clear. I still need to drill a hole into this little dot. There's a little dot here where you can kind of see where you're supposed to like insert the piece. So I'm gonna probably drill into that and insert a rod, but that rod will only be used to hold the piece up when we're painting, and then I'll just use glue when I'm assembling it. Is this about average for a kit or worse than usual? Are you referring to the quality of the kit that I'm dealing with? Just want to be clear before I make any false assumptions. Okay, this piece is just about done, so the amount of air holes, I would say that this is a little bit lower than average. For a kit of this age, and given that it probably came directly from the sculptor, so not cast in a factory, I'd say that this is about right for that. So generationally, like I would say this is, you know, average for this type of kit, for where it came from, the type of resin they used, especially this kind of yellowy. This is pretty typical. I've worked with kits like this before, so not really surprising to me. I have also, you know, dealt with kits from this era that were really nice as well. So a lot of it honestly just comes down to the kit's popularity, the sculptor's popularity, etc. I seem to be, in general, working with kits that have these type of issues more often than not. I think a lot of that, though, is because of my choice of kit, like my aesthetic preference, the type of kits that I like, the small ones, the unknown indie sculptors. I don't quite paint the popular stuff as often, so there's a lot of fake go kits that are really, really well cast, made in professional workshops because they sell and they make big bucks, right? And a lot of stuff on booth now, like the OC kits, are getting better, but majority of my collection is smaller, unknown OCs, so original characters, small kits in general, older kits. I haven't really purchased that much comparatively, so a lot of my collection is sort of mid to late 2010s rather than like brand new stuff. So for me, this is probably pretty typical. Really just kind of depends on what you enjoy working with. So if you're looking for the new stuff that comes out, you know, like at TFO and all of that, the quality will probably be a lot better. And there's a kit on my bench right now, which I'm hoping to kind of make a post about this week. It's one of my newest commissions. That kit has been excellent, and it was very much a newer kit. It's a popular character. So I feel like sculptors put kind of a bit more emphasis on making the popular, you know, bigger, well-known kits higher quality, mostly because, you know, there will be more people buying them and you want these kits to look nice. So, but this one, like, I've never even played Etrian Odyssey. Like, I barely even know this character, and this kit at this point is pretty dang old, you know. It's like at least like 7 years old, so really it's just you gotta breathe life into these old kits. That's what I enjoy doing, taking some of this older stuff. Not too old though, like I'm not here to work on the 80s stuff. That's a little beyond my realm of expertise. Mid 2010s is a sweet spot, because then you get to like where kits are starting to, the technology is getting better, the characters are, at least for me, are more recognizable, etc. So like a lot of them there. I realized I kind of switched gears because I started just talking, and so I was sanding this boot. Let me just wrap up this tiny area and then we will switch over to the ribbon. It's about good. The thing about kits though, and I guess want to say in general, is when you're buying an original kit, you kind of don't know what the quality is going to end up like unless you are aware that the sculptor has a good track record, or that it was made in a casting factory, etc. So these days, like if you're buying a Grizzly Panda kit or an Eldora model booth kit, you can safely assume for the most part that those kits are going to be pretty high quality and that the pieces will fit together really well and that you won't really have any issues up until, you know, the painting priming stage. If you're getting something from a smaller sculptor, it can be really good. You know, I ordered quite recently an original character from a very new sculptor, and they also had it cast in a professional factory, and the quality on that kit's excellent. It's actually one I showed on a stream in the past. I don't remember. It's labeled like new loop or something, and so I was really satisfied with the quality of that one. But older stuff, highly variable. Okay, before we get too crazy here on this boot, let me prime, or not prime. Okay, I need to thin a little bit of this putty. So I'm just gonna fill in this area real quick, and then I swear we will magnetize. I just keep like seeing these bubbles out of the corner of my eye. But air holes are not fun in general. Like, bubbles are very time consuming because you have to both fill them in and make sure that your surface is totally flat. So it really does add quite a few hours into the prep time. Not like a ton, depends on, you know, how many you're dealing with, but it can add a significant number of hours depending on how bad the kit is cast. Okay, I'm gonna set this boot aside. Let me grab, actually, first thing I need to do before we pin this ribbon is I'm gonna cut some more cardboard. Let me grab my scissors, and I'm doing this because I don't have that much left. This is just cardboard that I use when I am gluing things. So working on magnets, gluing a kit together, putting, you know, the Bondo on this type of cardboard. I like to keep it in stock and ready, so just have a bunch of cardboard sitting on one of my shelves, and when I need more I will just cut it, and that way I have a lot ready. This one's kind of flying. Usually I don't use this kind of corrugated stuff, but it was a really nice size. It just came out like this size, so I'm able to get about 2 squares worth for this height. Okay, I don't know if I can fit all of this in here, but I'm just gonna cut the rest of this. Get this off. Doing this kind of sideways. Okay, and let's cut these in half. Double layered one goes flying when I cut it. Okay. This is a good relief to get this one out of my hair, because it was a very long piece of cardboard and it filled up. It was very high in my closet, so being able to get rid of it was good. As I drop it. Probably won't need this many when we're working on this kit, but good to have a backup. And we'll leave one out. Okay, so let's take a look at this piece here, because we do still need to magnetize this. And I think, yeah, what we decided on last time was a 1/16 inch magnet in terms of diameter. So this small hole here, it will fill in. Come on. This small hole here in the back was pre-drilled out already, so it should fit in for a magnet. I believe we were going with the smallest size here, the 1/16 by 1/32 inch. I am using American inch sizes just because that's how these magnets are advertised. So not really much I can do. All right, yeah, the fit here was really good already. So tough though, because let's see. I drilled that out, but then I didn't drill this bit in. And usually what I would do is I would start here, because the polarity, it kind of centers around her pants and her lower half of her torso. So what I can do is check polarity. Let me grab, let me see how thick this is too. we really don't have a lot of room here. So you can see that there's a very thin amount of space here between where a magnet will fit and where it won't. I know for sure I can get a 132 inch in, but that's probably about it. So this is going to be a really fragile ribbon that just kind of sits there, and it will need glue for sure. But at least it's better than no connection. So there's zero room for a pin here in terms of, you know, where it would be available, because it just kind of sits and there's not space for a pin. Like even if I went through here, you could see it just doesn't, there's no pin room. So magnets can help out in that regard. But what we do need to do then is check, make sure that we are able to put a magnet. Let's see. I'm kind of grabbing a longer length here just because I want some more wiggle room to see how the polarity goes. So, oh, Rocket's here. Now he's leaving. Yes, I do prefer to use brass wire just because it's easier to bend. It is actually non-conductive, so it doesn't respond to magnets, so that can be really helpful. For example, if we had magnets running through here and through here, a steel rod would attract these magnets, and so it wouldn't be anything bad. But a brass magnet or a brass wire would not, you know, impact any of that. What thickness do you use? That will honestly depend on the type of kit that you have, the connections that you require, etc. I honestly cannot tell you exact, you know, what you're going to need for your kit. In general, I use wire that matches my pin vices, and so that's just kind of a general pinning thing you want to do anyway. So I use a 0.5 millimeter wire that corresponds with this drill bit. This is a 0.8 millimeter drill bit, so I use 0.8 millimeter wire. And this is a 1/16 inch drill bit, so I use a 1/16 inch diameter brass wire. To look at it here, this is a brand that I mostly use because I can buy it at hobby stores here in my area. It's K&S Precision Metals. You can see it's listed. So this is an 81 millimeter rod and, it is 0.81 millimeter and 0.51 millimeter. And this is the inches here. So this is 0.020 inches. I don't think I have, well, I have a little nub here. This is the 1/16 inch wire. So when I'm working on small kits like this size, that's kind of the realm that I use. I generally don't go larger than a 1/16 inch brass wire unless it's necessary for something like that needs a lot of stability. I can probably say never used anything larger than 1/16 inch other than possibly a foot connection. You know, at that point, like you're really working. These kits aren't too large, so you're not gonna need, and a 1/8 inch hole is, you know, already pretty large. I'm trying to pick up the drill or the pin size. So the magnet here, this is a 1/8 inch, 1/8 inch diameter, and that's a pretty thick rod. So like a lot of that wouldn't even, you could use it on your kit. I don't know why you would, because you really don't need it, but anywhere like 1/16 inch or smaller is something you should probably look into. Anything smaller than 0.5 millimeters, you're entering jewelry wire territory. So meaning, you know, bendable wire that's used for beading or jewelry, you know, fine metal working. So, you know, some people use jewelry and wire and they're able to create these like really beautiful pieces of jewelry, whether they're wrapping it around a stone, etc. That's the type of wire they use. And let me see, I think I do have some. Let me pull it out real quick just so you can see a comparison. Okay, so I forgot what size this is. I think it's 0.4 millimeter, but it might be 0.35. But this is the thin stuff I'm talking about. So you can see it's really just meant for jewelry wire. It won't offer you basically any connection support. Sorry, I have to be patient. Okay, close enough. So yeah, this is the really thin stuff. You can see it bends no problem. It's just meant for honestly connecting pieces to other pieces. And that's about it. It's not going to offer you, you know, any lasting support. So if you have gravity on something, it's probably not going to do anything. But if you have like a small ribbon or something that you need to attach to a hair piece or something, or maybe like a little button or a little tie that's really tiny that needs to like go in here, you can do that with this wire. So what I was saying before is I'm probably going to drill out this little scrunchie and use a piece of wire like this. So you can see that this would probably fit here, but it's not going to offer much support and probably not worth it even to pin it to the kit. So, oops, I push this a little bit more. Yeah, those are all the sizes that I use in kind of general when I'm pinning. Most of the time I'm not working with this small stuff, and I generally don't recommend people buy this size right out the gate unless you know you're going to be working with a kit that has these really tiny parts, just because it's not going to do anything. Anyway, let's continue on with this. Okay, I think what's happening here, this will be interesting. Polarity is kind of weird because I think that we created a loop, so the polarities here matched up, and then, excuse me, they went across here and they went up here. And so when I push this down, it's gravitating this way, but when I turn it over, it gravitates the other way. So I don't think it will necessarily matter which way it goes and which way it doesn't. If, for whatever reason, the magnet does not work, honestly, not really a big deal. We will just be gluing this piece anyway. But that is something to keep in mind when you're working with kits like this, that you need to be mindful of those types of situations. Yeah, no worries, Mr. Freaky. And yes, Canon, sorry, I read your comment and then I didn't respond. But you should find more pin vices if you have more pinning to do. Okay. So, since it will not matter, I am just going to glue one of these 132-inch magnets into this ribbon, and then we will glue dot the other side with some liquid mask and figure it out from there. So, yeah, this will not matter. I do need my little cardboard bit and my glue, which I did take out, so that's good. Does not matter what size what side we put this on, because the polarity is kind of weird on both sides anyway. Mix this up really well. This is a 2-part epoxy glue that I use pretty much on everything with my resin kits. So great for bonding resin to resin. And I'm just going to use the same one here, so I'm going to put it down. Okay. Don't need to mark what side we put this in because it's just going straight in. Make sure you guys can see it. And since the fit was good, it's really just a pull and push situation. So that's pretty much it. All I did was push this magnet down into there and then pull away. And so the piece won't come out despite, you know, me gluing it. So it would be like you push the piece in and then one of those magnets will go in and I just kind of swiftly pull it out. Or away, not out, I guess. Pull it away from the magnet. For the most part, that should work. Yeah, that's this one. Then what I do like to do and what I've done before is just kind of take a surface that isn't magnetized, such as a small, back of a precision Q-tip. It will show. So this is about a good size that I use with 16ths and 1/8 and just push that magnet in. Once it's in, it should be totally flush. You can see it's sticking out a really tiny bit on one side, so what you can do is kind of manipulate it. I realize it probably just went away, the blurriness, but yeah. Now you can see it's pretty flush. So you want that magnet totally flush when you put it in. And it can be a little bit farther in, but it shouldn't be sticking out. That's the main thing that you're looking for here. You don't want it to go in too far, so you don't want to drill in too far because you do lose a significant amount of magnetization if those magnets are too far away, especially at this like really, really small size magnet. You're really not doing too much here. So, all right, so we're gonna wait for this one briefly until it dries. We'll kind of touch the glue here and see once it's dry. And then after that, we're going to mark the piece. So we're gonna put some little liquid mask on it and push it in here, and that will tell us where we need to drill. So normally I would have drilled this side first. I probably should have done that, but I think I got impatient because this was such a nice area to drill. I really wanted this in the middle of this ribbon because that way no matter where we put it, it will be kind of in the middle. So, okay, let's see, what else can we do? We do need to start some more bondoing on these pieces. So we've still got a handful of pieces here. I do realize we just hit 10 p.m. We're gonna go a little bit longer tonight. Probably not too long, but I do want to make sure that this magnet dries and we're able to fit it into the main torso. So we will wait for that at least. But let me put away these other magnets. Let me keep out this size. Don't think we're gonna need anything larger than a 132 inch. 1/32. How do you even say that? 132. Okay, that's what we'll be doing. Okay, put that away. I'm going to put away these pieces. Actually, yeah, these 3 pieces. So these are the ones that we sanded before. These ones. So I'm just gonna put those to the side. And I might as well put this stuff to the side too, so we can pull out these ones. So these are pieces we haven't really done anything to yet. I kind of left the hair for last and her head for last. Although I did fill in all of the big holes that we drilled out. So we did all of the like curing putty main stuff already, but we do need to bondo these. So let me take one brief second and kind of look to see where you need to be laying down this bondo. From what I recall, yeah, and what I'm seeing now, it really was on the inside and outside of every bit here, so yeah. So the sculptor was kind enough to put the seam line on the outside edge of all of the hair, but because of the putty issues that we were dealing with and the seam line bubbles, that's where all of the bondo is gonna have to go. Oh, I hear my dog. I don't know what he's doing though. He's feeling spicy. Okay, double checking. Yeah, it looks like it's wow, there's a really big area here that I missed. So I'm gonna set this aside here. I don't know if you guys can see it. Probably not. Yeah, right there. There's a shadow where the line is. That is a really big seam line sort of gap that misaligned that I'm gonna fill in with the light curing putty. So I'll do that probably first, I think. And then yeah, the rest of these are on the outside. So we'll bondo the outside of the twin tails. This piece, her face, probably also going to have to deal with putting a bunch of bondo on it. There are a couple of minor seam lines that I didn't cut out. Oh my goodness, my doggy's fussing. Now he's hecking, he's coughing up. He's fine though. Okay, I think we're good. Okay. There's also a minor line here I need to fill in with the bondo. So doing a quick analysis before I start this. And this piece, her hair, this had a surprising amount of extra flash on it despite being so small. It also has these 2 little tiny dots, and so there will be no pinning on these either. You can see the dots here correspond with the dots on her little braids here, and so sorry, I'm looking at looking at the camera. it will fill in like this. So she won't have this giant 5 head once we assemble her. Like she has this huge forehead, but her little bangs will cover up all of that, and so she'll have this really kind of cute look going on with the twin tails coming out. And yeah, this will be one of the main ones, and this will be the other one, but I don't recall how these fit, etc. So that will be interesting to figure out. I also have the reference photo above, so I can't look at it right now. Oh, but it is on my stream, so that's convenient. Okay, wow. I think he's squeaking stuff now. Okay, let me find that piece again. Part of the reason I missed it is because these twin tails are so windy. So, I think it was this one. Yep, right here. Well, I'm surprised he's squeaking that. Usually my dog's not much of a squeaker. Actually my cat that squeaks the squeaky toys, which is pretty weird, honestly. I'm gonna smear this light curing putty into this gap first. I had a pretty good experience on the other pieces that had this issue by using this light curing putty. It really did fill it in quite well, and because it ended up being such a similar color to the resin, it blended everything kind of together. Not that it matters too much since we are adding Bondo anyway. But we'll do this first. We're waiting anyway for this glue to dry. So I'm gonna hold this piece up to the right. You can see my nice bruise. Had some blood drawn. I've been having blood taken for stuff for school, so for whatever reason I got a big bruise out of it. And there's one on the other side of my arm too. About halfway there. Switch over. Let me get a drink of water. My paper straw is almost disintegrated at this point. I can like barely get anything out of that. Okay. Doesn't feel dry though. Well, we'll give it a try. Okay, so I'm gonna pull out the 400 grit for this, since this light curing stuff dries pretty solid and it's easy to sand off with the 400 grit. This has been fun. I'm getting pretty excited. You know, there's all this work involved, but once we especially get to the painting stage, it's like start to like hype yourself up because you're like, I gotta do this, I gotta paint, I gotta do this all again. Sitting here just like sanding and fixing defects and stuff is more relaxing to me, but then once I start painting, I'm like, okay, like it's time, I gotta hype, I gotta mix colors, I gotta do this. Like painting, for some people, like painting is their favorite part. Excuse me. For me, it's a lot of fun. I like painting, but to me, it's also the most stressful part. I like just kind of not having that pressure and sanding things and getting them all nasty with my hands. But once you paint, it's like you gotta keep it really nice condition and make sure your paint job's super smooth and all of that. But then again, all your work that you spent was done, so you could get a nice paint job. So I feel a lot less pressure now because there's a lot of buildup and hours that go into the process beforehand to make sure that your paint job does end up nice. So I'm not really left that often anymore with nasty surprises like things not fitting or, you know, paint suddenly looking gross on a piece because there is a lot of prep involved. And lots of spoons, as which we will also show. So eventually we'll get up to that point where I need to switch my air booth setup again. It didn't work out the issues with it though, with the sound muting, so this stuff, we're just building so quick, don't have time. Okay, I had to cut a little bit more of this, or rip a little bit more of this 800 off. Get this this light curing stuff down. But it filled it in pretty well, just I thought. And let's get a little bit of this. I guess after this piece is done, check on that glue. That way we can at least get the other one going. Okay, there's probably still a bunch of things wrong with that, but that's fine. Let's check on this. So, should be pretty tacky at this point. And it's still a little wet. We're gonna wait a little bit longer. So really what I want when I'm checking glue is that it's not, like I'm not leaving a lot of imprints on it and it doesn't pull up that easy, but I'm still able to do that with this right now. So we're gonna wait a little bit longer before I start drilling out the other piece here. So that means it's time to Bondo, or at least start Bondo. So we'll pull a little bit out, move it this way so you guys can see. I don't know what my dog is doing. He's like throwing something now. Put a little bit of lacquer thinner on that just to get this nice and let's get a new, oops, nice and blended. We want this stuff pretty liquidy. This cardboard is not my first choice because the thinner gets sucked up into it, but we're working with what we got here. All right, so how should I start this? I guess just kind of the inner corner here. And I should double check where button this again. Seems like this is the right, yeah. Yep. Really just laying down this Bondo thinly. Probably will need a little bit more, a thicker coat. Sometimes it's easier to have this stuff pinned already, so you can just kind of hold your piece on a pin and then put the putty on top of it. But it all comes down to whatever your preference is. I also would be like smearing it more with gloves, but I don't have any gloves, so I'm gonna use a toothpick for now. Toothpick kind of does the same thing though, because it does have some surface area. And you can just kind of rub toothpick along the inside. Okay. And I know the tip also had some issues. Did kind of a lot of work sanding and smoothing this hair piece down, so it was not this nicely rounded before. You can see it's still kind of not perfectly round, but the shape and form of it is a lot better than what it was before. And that's just kind of minor sculpt correcting stuff that you can choose to do or not. Depends on how you're feeling. But no, I don't think any of that was done on camera. That was all done when I was on my vacation. So that would be just more stuff that you guys could see, but I wanted to save a little bit of time. Okay, now the other bit of this, the seam line kind of went along the top here, and then it went back down, and I think it was along this edge. Let me double check. Hold this piece up to the light. Oh, there's a little nick right here. Sorry, you guys can't see it. There's a little bit right here that I'm just gonna lay down, and then we'll leave that for now. I just spotted another potential bubble that I probably should have pricked out, but we can save that for later, or not at all, depending on how deeply it was embedded into this kit. I think this is it. This is a weird song. Might need to do a second round of Bondo on this just because I'm laying it down so thin. There wasn't too much in terms of large bubbling. This is a pretty good consistency for this putty right now. So it's wet but pliable, and it's not so thinned down that it just kind of like runs off. You can get a thicker amount and apply it. Okay, that should be pretty good for this piece for now. This is kind of a preliminary and mostly first round puttying, so it should fill in a lot of these bubbles, but maybe not all of them. I'm gonna leave this to the side for now. I need to have another paper towel, honestly, for some of these ones. Leave them on this. There's a little paper towel over here. I will pull it over. You can see the ones that have putty are going on here, so we're just gonna leave them there. Excuse me, temporarily. Okay, let's check on this again. And that's stuck. This is pretty good now. I think it's at a point, it's still kind of tacky, but mostly good. Good way to check is if you have your magnets and you put another magnet up against it. And if it rips right out, then you're not done. So that's pretty good. You can see that I'm applying magnet to it and it's not coming out. There's not any budging or, you know, magnet's not pulling out. So we're good to continue. Let me grab my liquid mask real quick. That is one thing that I forgot to put on my bench before this stream. It's right over here, so I don't need to mute myself or anything. Okay. Masking coat R right here, and what we will do is take a tiny bit of that and put it onto this ribbon, and then we're going to push it up against her outer clothes. That will tell us where we need to install the other magnet. Should be a pretty tight fit, or at least one that will show me where to put it. I don't recall there being a gap between these pieces, so don't really need this right now. So you want to be careful when you put this down. It's right there. Oh, that's convenient. So right in the middle, that's a pretty good fit. That's where we want this magnet installed. That seems that's where it fits up. So we're gonna try drilling there, and hopefully everything will go well. Put this back. Okay, I'm gonna start out with my smallest drill bit size that I have right here, the 0.5, and go right in the middle of where we laid down that liquid mask dot. After that, it can kind of wipe it away. So you can also use some thinner or the cotton swab, and the abrasiveness of that cotton swab will wipe off the liquid mask, especially when it's still wet. And even if it did dry, you can kind of just like peel it off when it's dry, so it won't do any harm. All right, moving up to my 0.8 millimeter drill bit. We're kind of just tapping these right now, so making it so the hole is big enough for this 1/16 inch to have a grip. Okay, this is the last one. This is the 1/16 inch drill bit size. Not sure how far I can get in here, but all I need is this little height, so we won't need to do too much. It might go through though, so I am aware of that. Yep, there we go. So it just drills straight through, mostly because the surface is, or the I guess the width of it is so small. That's still totally fine. What we're just gonna have is this magnet sitting in between both pieces, so it will look something like this. focus. Come on. Oh my gosh, come on. Back. Here. There we go. So you can see the magnet's kind of temporarily already in it. But what we'll do, and you can see it extend out the backside, what we'll do is just get some glue in there and make sure that the polarity matches up. These ones are also really easy to push in and out, so it just pops right out if you put a little bit of pressure on it. That's probably good that it's a closer connection, because then that way it will be able to hit the other magnets. So you can also test other sizes, so if it's not, you know, 100% aligned, maybe you want to install a deeper length. In this case, it looks like the 132 or 132nd, I guess, height is pretty good. So, all right. Next thing we'll do then is, let me grab a Sharpie. Need all the supplies today. My goodness. Oh, here it is. So, because we did already install magnet here, we want to make sure that this magnet that we install into her tattered clothes, you know, will hit this one. So we want to make a note here that this magnet, to make sure that it pops out, the red side will touch. So we will need to flip this over. Flip this over, and then when we install this in here, we're just going to push this magnet in here, and the red Sharpie side should be visible out here. And that way, when we apply the ribbon to it, the two polarities will match up. So let's match up some, or let's mix up, sorry, some more glue. Don't know where I put my other one, so I can't reuse it, but fine. That's why we cut a lot. Okay. Don't need very much at all. We don't even need this much, but a lot of times I just kind of squeeze it out. There we go. As long as the two parts are equal, you're good. If you don't have enough of either one of them, then the mixture doesn't work quite right and it may not cure properly. We're gonna mix it really well. Sorry, I'm shifting off again. Okay. And here. All right, red side is over here on this end. So when we push these two together, or when we push this in here and wipe away, the red dot should be facing out. I want to kind of liberally apply a lot of glue here because we don't have a back on this. We only have the sides where this magnet can stick. There we go. So swipe away. Oops, sorry. Oh my gosh, I don't know what it's doing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So once it swipes away, we'll let it sit for a little while. This piece especially, we want to make sure that the glue has a lot of time to settle down. Because I've noticed that when you're dealing with magnets like this that don't have a backing, you don't apply a lot of glue, they can kind of pop out pretty easy. And that glue's got to have some time to settle. You can also do, and what generally won't impact the strength of the magnet, just add a tiny little bit of extra glue around the edges, or even just slightly the top. And that way it'll definitely have a chance to seep in the cracks. Generally what I'll do here is do that and then take a finer bit, precision Q-tip, and wipe it down. Really don't want any extra glue on this because then you're gonna have to deal with that later. All right, so we'll wait. You can see that it's no longer shiny red because the thinner that I applied onto it wiped off that Sharpie, but that's fine. We know they should connect. So we're gonna wait a little bit longer, do the rest of the Bondo on these hair pieces so that way they have a chance to fully dry, and check the piece at the end. And that should wrap things up for tonight. We're just gonna go straight into this, making sure that we hit the right area first. Oh, yeah, that's the seam line. Okay. these hair pieces are pretty angular, so it's really more of a triangle. So at least it's easy to find out what plane the seam line was on, and then just follow that all the way through. And I'm really gonna smear some of that in. Do need to double check though. Make sure it follows the right seam line. I did a really good job sanding these down, but it's kind of hard to see where the bubbles are sometimes. Okay, they kind of go along the top here. Whoa, what's happening out there? Double check under the light. Okay. Sorry, I'm shifting up because I want to look at it against the light. Kind of smear a little bit. You really want to try to avoid touching this Bondo too much with your fingers. It is still chemical. Okay, there's some spots for sure. This will be fun to sand on Wednesday. Got a lot of twisty bits. Okay. Oops. Hard to grip this. Okay. Okay, where's the other? Yeah. Here. Might need some more of this putty shortly. Definitely a bunch on the end tips here, so we want to make sure we kind of load that up as I go and touch it. Probably should have pinned this first. Oh well. Okay. And then, yeah, I think the rest of this was kind of on the inside of this, so. Honestly, all this is going to be sanded down anyway, so I'm not too concerned about how little or too much I apply here. Yep, okay. And this piece almost done. Trying to spot treat all of this. At least get to a point where we know where they are filling in, and then that way we can go in later and fill it in more if needed, or switch it up to a more intensive putty type. Alright, so he's pretty much done. As you can see, it looks pretty nasty. It's still kind of blurry, but that's fine. Alright, I need to pull out a little more Bondo because I'm using a lot and it's thinned down. Okay. Stuff's coming pretty nice out of the tube, so don't need to thin it down too much yet. Alright, this piece. This was the interesting one with the area I filled in with the light carrying putty. I'm going to try to start where I see some holes and then follow the trail. Little toothpick here in my way. Oh crap. Oh, not too much spill. Okay. Alright, gonna fill all of that area that we put up with the putty, the Tamiya light carrying putty, and kind of cover that up too. It's getting slightly flaky already. Okay. Looks like the seam line kind of runs along the top here too. So that, and then let's see where this goes now. Oh, twin tails are interesting because they kind of start in one plane and then shift up along the edge and kind of stay there. So need a little bit more thinner. Running pretty low though. The stuff's evaporating pretty quickly because it's hot. Oh yeah, this will be some fun sanding. I see some of that filling in right away. Okay, I'm gonna hold the end of this. And we're gonna go along every hair tip. Really not being afraid to put it on the hair tips here. Okay, and then double checking where this seam line goes. All right, goes this way. Good to double check because I was about to put a bunch of putty in an area where I didn't need it at all. Okay. Oops, I keep turning this over. Oh, it's like a hair or something that made its way in here. A little bit of just a regular scratch that I'm filling in. Okay, some more up here. A little bit of a scratch there. Okay, going to take a look. Top here. I'm hesitating to do too much work along this top area because there are portions of it where the scrunchie is supposed to fit in. So rather than, you know, putty all of that up, I think it would be good to wait on that until we have the kit pinned and then see. But I'm not seeing too much more. There's one like big bubble where it looks like that's where we were supposed to put our wire in. Get some of this here, smooth some of this out. This will be more sculpt correction and just like the cast in general. There's a couple of rough patches here you can fill in. I think that piece is pretty good. So let me set it to the side. This is the last big hair piece. Before I do that, I'm just gonna briefly do this tiny one, get it out of the way. So we got this big hair piece, and then her face will be the last thing. I don't think there were too many holes on this little hair, but I've been surprised before. Did have to do all that sanding on it, so we'll just stick to the outside for now of that hair piece. I don't want to go in between the hair strands yet. Okay, last one is this big piece here. This one absolutely has some holes. I see them already. So it starts up here. Really want to make sure we fill all those in. So get this putty nice and thick on that area. Yeah, I see it. Bad if they're visible. We want to fill in holes that aren't visible. So the fact we're able to see them has me a little concerned that there's a lot that I'm not seeing. Probably need to get a tiny bit more thinner in my cup since I'm already out again. Do that after I finish this section. Okay, and I want to check now where I should be going. Gotta follow the trail. Trail of bubbles. I'm gonna need more thinner. Yep, okay. I'm gonna wait 1 second, get more thinner. pour it out of my jug. Oops. Ooh, going a little bit longer than I thought. So again, thank you for those of you who are sticking around. I get into something and then I just kind of keep going. I don't realize how much time passes. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll be done in like 10 minutes. Not the case at all. Oops, yeah. Try to avoid touching it, but I always do that anyway. Okay. I really don't want to put a ton of putty in between these really hard to reach areas, but given that I did the seam line and I can see it, I really don't have a choice. I kind of gotta lay the putty in there and get some of this excess off the toothpick though. So. There we go, that way at least it will fill in a little bit. Okay. This area right here, what we just hit, is where we will need to do some additional work because we're going to be merging two of these hair pieces together. So right now we are kind of treating them all as they're 4 total different pieces, but once we get the hair joined together, there will only be 2 big hair pieces and then our little tiny scrunchies. So start out with more pieces than we'll actually have to paint. Okay. Next up is, oh, where did that go? Oh, okay. A little in the center. Turning it over. Alright, really just kind of gonna go for it at this point. Get it thin layer down. Okay, now where's the next one here? Gotta follow the line. Okay, there's a big surface level scratch here, so I do want to make sure that I add a little bit more putty. Really get that a chance to settle in. And I'm not quite sure what's going on here. Some weird bubbling or something. So I'm just gonna make a note there. And this needs some more thinner. Nice red. Should just go up along here. There's a nice guide hole from the Tamiya light carrying stuff that I saw. Alright, and I did see a couple holes up here. So that should be it for this piece for now. There will probably be another step needed for this one though. We'll just have to see. Alright, last piece and then we'll check on the fit and that will be it. I do want to get this head at least kind of puttied. Probably don't need quite as much putty here, and I want to try to avoid putting too much on this face. But there are a few seam lines that I unfortunately was not able to eliminate, mostly in between these hair strands, without destroying the sculpt. So the solution is just to fill them in with this light, or this Bondo putty, because that will sand out pretty easy. Okay. You can see we're really just kind of going along her hairline here. Kind of hard with this camera lately, so going all along her hairline here. There was a nice fat seam line. did not see too many bubbles, so here's hoping that they're not just invisible. Okay. Here's where it gets kind of dicey. It's like around her ears and her lower neck. There was a really big seam line and a misalignment that happened right under her jawbone and leading into her neck. So I filled all of that in with the Tamiya's light curing stuff, but it took quite a bit of puttying and quite a bit of sanding down. But this line here should fill in, oops, I keep dropping it, any leftover imperfections. Really, I just need to be like there. Hold the front of her head and the back. Can't even see that anymore, so that's good. But there is a little bit here that I can see. There was some slight scratching I couldn't get rid of. Oops. Even if I apply kind of a lot here, that's fine because we have lots of time for it to dry. And let me put it around her neck too. There was a little bit of bubbling I saw. Oh, that might be pain. Okay. Make sure that we kind of pull that out. We don't want it to go directly into the neck because that will be where we want the connection to be strongest. So, all right, that's a little messy, but I think that's fine for now because we will be sanding all of it down later. So you can see the putty here just basically follows the contour of the head and where the seam line was. So we'll set that aside for now. I'm gonna throw away this stuff because we're not going to be using it for the rest of tonight, and get this cleaned up briefly, do the rest of it off camera, but anything that I might like spill or hit, I do want to move aside real quick. All right, this too, and these, and this, and this, and this. Okay, last thing. All right, so glue should be dry at this point. Let's double check with a toothpick. Yep, that's pretty rock solid. So you can see when I touch it, it makes just a very slight indent. There's not too much going on here. Can't pull it off, so it's pretty much dry at this point. So we should be able to just have these pieces snap together if I did it correctly, which 80%. I trust myself, but not that much. All right, so this was the piece and this was the bow, and it should fit in. Yep. So to reiterate that again, we have 2 magnets here and they should just fit like that. So this fit is good and it locks in secure. You can hear it. Oops, if I don't drop it. Maybe you guys can hear it, maybe not. The problem is I'm not sure if this connection will work with the torso setup. So this might pop out when I put this here. No, it didn't. Okay, maybe this one? No, so far so good. And this one. We're good. Nice. That's awesome. So let me put this boot in. That's what it'll look like when it's her lower torso. Let's get this camera focused so it can... So we're coming together, honestly. You can see this part's still wiggly. That's because there is no connection here. It just fits in kind of like this, and so we'll be using glue and putting glue along the sides here in order to get that secure. And there's really no need to add any more, I think. She's just gonna be standing. But that's nice. I'm glad that the ribbon is a really flush fit. You can see the side here, it's pretty much seamless. As in, like, it just fits flush. You can take it off and put it right back on, and it looks good. So that will pretty much conclude the magnetizing tonight, I think. In terms of magnets, we only have 2 more things to magnetize, so we'll just have her hands. Oops. And those will go on either side. She is wearing like a sleeveless attire, and so it's just her bare arms on either side. And so those will go in. I think I should be able to use either. I can use the 16th inch or 1/8 inch, but the 1/8 inch might be a lot of coverage, so we'll have to test that on Wednesday. The rest of these pieces will be pinned with actual brass pins, so yay, brass pinning. We'll do the torso, or like the head to torso connection here, so then it will look like this. So you can see she's starting to come together. Head to torso, and then her hair will need to be pinned on either side. So trying to pick up her head again, you can see there's already a pre-drilled area for her hair. I didn't drill this in. It does go in a decent amount, and so we'll need to get that in a little bit farther in order to make those hair twin tails really secure. And then we'll also have to pin the middle here. So each hair piece, as I said, is actually 2 hair pieces, and so we really want that to be a seamless, like, one twin tail, right? We don't want there to be a line in between the twin tails, because that's just really not cute. It doesn't look super professional, and so what we will do most likely is drill pins into either of these sides, so these areas here, and then probably just glue them right away, assuming they fit well, and then we will begin the process of puttying and smoothing the gap, so to say. So that's kind of what we can sometimes save until the end of the kit building process. So setting this aside and putting these on here real quick just to give you guys an idea of what it is. Usually when you're doing this stuff, what you can choose to do, if the pieces are in an inconvenient spot, is finish painting your kit entirely, and then after that you glue the pieces together, the ones that are tough, and then you putty over that joint and then kind of sand that minor area down and then prime it and paint it again. And so this works best with matte color, or sorry, opaque colors, because then you could just, spray one color over it and it's totally fine. If it's in an area with a lot of gradation or a clear skin, you're not going to be able to do that. Your best bet is to get these pieces joined together first and then paint the kit. So you can do it either way. And I'll talk more about this on Wednesday, so no worries there. That way, I'll be able to give you the full explanation, and I do have a photo or 2 I can show you, so that will be good. In any case, that's pretty much it for tonight. So we did quite a bit of work. We got a lot of sanding done. We did a minor amount of magnetizing, and we prepped pieces for Wednesday. So next stream will be on the 14th. Yep, Wednesday, July 14th. We will be continuing the prep work and getting stuff ready for priming. We'll be at 8 p.m. as always. So thank you for you guys holding out. Hope you have a good rest of your night, and I'm excited to see this fully built in my hand. Good night, Mr. Freak, and good night, everybody else. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.